What if I told you Michael Jordan, the most famous basketball player on earth, made less than $100 million in NBA salary, but turned that into a multi-billion-dollar empire anyway? That's the real story. Not the championships, not the sneakers, not the highlights we've all seen 1,000 times. The real story is how Jordan figured out a money truth that most people never fully understand. Income can make you comfortable, but ownership can make you wealthy. Forbes now estimates Jordan's fortune at about $4.3 billion, and the crazy part is that the biggest driver of that wealth was not his playing contract, it was the business machine he built around his name. Michael Jordan's NBA salary during his career totaled about $90 million. For a normal person, that sounds like fantasy money. For Jordan, it was only the opening chapter. According to Forbes, he has earned roughly $2.4 billion before taxes from corporate partners like Nike, Hanes, and Gatorade. That one contrast tells you almost everything you need to know about wealth creation. The paycheck made him rich. The ownership, royalties, and long-term brand deals made him transformationally wealthy. That is lesson number one for every viewer. Your job can fund your life, but assets are what can change your family tree. The most important decision of Jordan's financial life may have happened before he even played a single NBA game. In 1984, his first Nike deal was worth $500,000 a year, plus royalties. At the time, that was not just a shoe endorsement, it was a different way of thinking. Instead of taking only fixed cash, Jordan got a piece of the upside. Decades later, Forbes says Nike pays him nearly $300 million per year. Think about that for a second. One smart agreement tied to a product and a brand kept compounding long after the jump shot faded. Ordinary people may never sign a Nike deal, but the principle still applies. Don't negotiate only for today's paycheck. Look for upside, commissions, profit share, equity, royalties, a side business, or skills that keep paying you after the work is done. And that is the genius of Jordan's wealth. He didn't just sell shoes, he helped create an identity. The Jordan brand became bigger than the player himself. That matters because products fade, but brands can survive generations. Many people spend money trying to look successful. Jordan spent decades building something that could sell whether he was on a court or not. For the average person, your brand doesn't mean internet fame. It can mean your reputation, your reliability, your consistency, your name in your industry. When people trust your name, opportunities start finding you. Wealth often follows trust. Then came one of his biggest financial power moves, team ownership. Jordan bought the Charlotte NBA franchise in 2010 for about $275 million. In August 2023, the sale of his majority stake was finalized at a $3 billion valuation, and he stayed involved as a minority owner. This was not just a celebrity purchase, it was an asset play. He moved from being talent inside the system to an owner of the system. And that is one of the cleanest wealth lessons you will ever hear. Whenever possible, move closer to ownership. Maybe that means buying index funds instead of only earning wages. Maybe it means building a small business instead of relying on one employer forever. Maybe it means owning rental property, buying into a franchise, or purchasing shares in companies you believe in. Jordan's money exploded when he stopped being paid only for performance and started being paid for equity. But here is something people miss. Wealth building does not always look glamorous in real time. The Hornets investment did not need to look perfect every single year to become one of the biggest wealth moves of Jordan's life. The key point is that he bought a scarce asset, held it for years, and eventually benefited from enormous appreciation when the franchise changed hands at a multi-billion-dollar valuation. That is a huge lesson for ordinary investors. A good asset can have ugly seasons. A broad stock market fund can look terrible for a year. A business can struggle before it scales. A property can feel like dead weight before the neighborhood improves. Too many people quit good investments because they expect smooth success. Jordan's story reminds us that wealth is often built by enduring imperfect stretches without abandoning the long game. And Jordan did not stop with one lane. In 2020, he became an investor and special advisor to DraftKings, and he also became a NASCAR team co-owner. Today, 23X1 Racing describes him as the majority owner of the team he co-founded with Denny Hamlin. That matters because Jordan kept extending his influence into businesses connected to audiences, culture, and competition, areas he understood. He did not randomly chase every shiny object. He moved into categories where his network, credibility, and competitive obsession actually meant something. That is a powerful lesson. Diversification is smart, but blind diversification is not. The best investments are often the ones that match your knowledge, your relationships, and your ability to add value. He did something similar with Cincoro Tequila. According to the company's own story, the idea was born in 2016 when 5 NBA owners got together over dinner and bonded over tequila. Jordan became a co-founder, helping turn a social moment into a luxury brand. That may sound like a celebrity hobby, but financially it shows something deeper. Wealthy people constantly look for ways to transform lifestyle, access, and relationships into equity. They don't just consume premium products, they ask whether they can help own one. Regular people can use the same mindset on a smaller scale. Instead of only being customers forever, ask where you can become an owner, even if that starts with a simple brokerage account, a side hustle, or buying into a business model you already understand from the inside. Now, let's talk about real estate, because Jordan's property story is a reminder that even legends do not win on every deal. His long-listed Highland Park estate near Chicago finally sold in December 2024 for $9.5 million, after first hitting the market in 2012 at a much higher asking price. That's important because celebrity real estate can create the illusion that property always goes up exactly the way owners want. It doesn't. Markets care about pricing, liquidity, customization, and timing. Jordan could absorb that. Most people cannot. So the lesson here is not buy a mansion. The lesson is this: be careful with highly personalized assets that are expensive to maintain and hard to sell. Wealth is not just about buying great things. It is also about preserving flexibility. There is also a mental lesson in Jordan's finances that may be the most important of all. He understood leverage. Not debt leverage necessarily, brand leverage, relationship leverage, and time leverage. Every endorsement multiplied his fame. Every product multiplied his reach. Every ownership stake gave him another way to benefit while other people worked, bought, watched, or spent. That is how fortunes separate from incomes. Most people live in a one-to-one model. 1 hour worked, 1 unit of pay earned. Jordan built one-to-many economics. 1 name, millions of customers. 1 deal, decades of royalties. 1 ownership stake, years of appreciation. If your goal is financial freedom, your life has to move gradually from one-to-one effort toward one-to-many systems. And here's the emotional heart of the story. Michael Jordan did not become wealthy because he was simply talented. Plenty of talented athletes retire with far less. He became wealthy because he paired excellence with structure. He protected the value of his image. He attached his name to scalable businesses. He made deals that could outlive his playing years. He understood that fame is temporary, but ownership can keep paying long after applause fades. That should inspire anyone watching this, because you do not need to be Michael Jordan to use the same blueprint. You need income, discipline, patience, and the courage to think beyond consumption. You need to stop asking, "What can I buy?" and start asking, "What can I own?" So what are the practical money lessons from Jordan's empire? First, build around assets, not appearances. Expensive lifestyles impress people for a moment, but productive assets can pay you for years. Second, negotiate for upside whenever you can. A lower salary with equity, royalties, or profit share can sometimes be far more valuable than a bigger paycheck with no future participation. Third, stay in your circle of competence. Jordan's biggest wins came in arenas connected to sports, culture, branding, and premium consumer demand. Fourth, play the long game. His fortune was not built in one season. It was built across decades of compounding. And fifth, remember that one great deal can outperform years of labor. That is why learning to spot, evaluate, and hold quality assets matters so much. If you are an ordinary person watching this and wondering how any of this applies to your life, here is the real answer. You can start small. Build a financial cushion, get out of bad debt, invest consistently in broad, diversified funds, learn one valuable skill that can increase your income, save enough to buy assets instead of only paying bills. If you have a business idea, structure it so it can grow without you doing every single task forever. If you work for a company, think about whether there is a way to earn upside, not just salary. If you have credibility in a niche, ask how that reputation can become a product, a service, a subscription, or an investment opportunity. Jordan's scale is extraordinary, but his principles are surprisingly ordinary. Ownership, patience, leverage, brand, discipline, repeat. In the end, Michael Jordan's wealth story is bigger than basketball. It is the story of a man who turned performance into brand, brand into ownership, and ownership into lasting financial power. He proved that the highest level of wealth is not earned one paycheck at a time. It is built by planting yourself where the upside keeps growing after the work is finished. That is why his bank account became as legendary as his career. And maybe the most inspiring part is this: the formula is visible. Earn well, yes, but own what grows. Protect your name. Think in decades. Let your wins compound. Because the difference between being paid today and being paid for years, that difference can change everything.